I'm getting ready to start a new section of river for myself. I'm doing French Broad Section 9. I'm happy. Thankful the wife let me get on. Let's see how this goes.
Alright, so we're going to have a nice gradual, like class 2 start. Nothing too crazy, good warm up. So we're going to work on just catching a bunch of eddies, kind of having fun.
Alright. Cool. I can see why the river gets its name.
Yeah, it is very broad.
I like that little slot move. Inside right. Through it, I had enough. Cool. Okay. So, right around that rock down there. Oh yeah, I caught that wave just right. I got spill.
The bottle looks like a surprise.
Yeah, that one I caught just right and like felt like I got air on it.
Best feeling. mortar kind of ejects it real quick.
looks like a good place to camp. You got a pretty good ledge to drop. That's a pretty good rapid right there too. Yeah. Probably kind of sneak some of course, you know. I don't know, you got that one rock right there, which you're probably going to miss anyways because you got the rock sticking above it on that ledge. So, like coming in from river right a little bit and trying to angle it this way, you could probably shoot through there pretty good. But I don't know if there's another rock there. There's a little bit of a pillow, so I'm thinking there's a rock behind it.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, right at the very, as you're exiting. So I don't know if the water current would push you right into it coming off that ledge.
A few times I've ran is the poop there. You can see the current of water just left to a big dry rock.
Right there?
Yeah, a little bit over to the left. So like you got that big dry, the biggest rock on the right.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's really pick your poison. This, I'm afraid that you would probably, unless you have more water, you get hung up. I don't think I would try that. So at least seeing it from down here. I don't know what it looks like from up there, but this, talking about like looking at this is a good exercise for myself. Right.
Down here, you can see everything. Scouting something from the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really held out on just outright pouring on us. I felt it like trying to sprinkle and everything.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a fun run, and I feel like I've, you know, worked on some things. Yeah, definitely. Yep.
We are coming in there.
that beautiful house. Awesome. I don't even want to think about how much it would cost to buy that. Hey everybody, it's your paddling pastor here, and I hope you enjoyed watching my first descent down the French Broad River on French Broad Section 9. We got on the water at Barnard and then took out at Stackhouse. And I didn't do the full section all the way down to Hot Springs, which is what I wanted to do and what we had kind of hoped to do, but I kind of relied on Joey Nedler, who was my guide for the day, my personal instructor, if you will. He knew the river pretty well, and he had decided that the water had come down enough after some recent rains that it wasn't going to be necessarily worth doing all the flat water paddling to get to the class 4 rapid, like Frank Bell rapid. So I was really hoping to get those in, but that didn't happen. But this paddle was like a year in the making. I came down last year with my family, and we stayed in the same area, and close to like the Pigeon Forge area. And I brought my boat, and I was like, it's going to rain. Hopefully, the rivers will come up some, and I can paddle. I had the same game plan on a fall trip that we made once before, and that had worked out for me. So I was hoping last year that it was going to work out for me in that way. Well, we got some rain and then some. Helene came through, and I remember us just watching and hoping that dams weren't going to break and all kinds of craziness was going to ensue. And we were staying where we were staying was close to Lake Douglas, and we watched it go from winter pool that they had drawn it down to like full summer pool overnight. It was insane. So needless to say, I didn't get on the river that time. So thankfully, I made it down. I made a post in the Appalachian Paddling Enthusiast page. So if you're in the area and you're looking for somebody to paddle with, check them out on Facebook, link up with them. There's some good people there. And that's how I found Joey. And he said, hey, here's my number. We messaged on Facebook a little bit, and then he was like, here's my number. Let's organize something and go down the river. So got to know him pretty good, and it was a good paddle. I'm gonna have to say, I really enjoyed French Broad Section 9. It was a blast. I would do that anytime. I love the fact that there were all these rocks all the way through it, and you can kind of tell from the river why it gets its name. As far as mountain streams are concerned, it is very, very broad. And but there are all these rocks all the way through it that you can eddy hop, and you can paddle, practice, eddy turns, peel outs, all of those things. It's a really good place if you're wanting to practice your skills, to step up. I think it's a fantastic place to go paddle. So anyway, we paddled that, and Joey was awesome. Glad I got to link up with him. He just seemed like a cool dude. And we just, conversation was easy between the two of us all the way down the river. And, he gave me some tips, some pointers, some little bit of instruction there. He made me go, he said, hey, all right, I'm going to give you kind of the maybe not the full on instruction that I would do, because he's actually a level 4 instructor and actually teaches in a school that he runs. And so, he, made me do my rolls and things like that, which was good for me. Good practice. Get some rolls in on the river. And then he just guided me down. He took me down some of the easier lines, which was okay. I would have really liked to have run Pinball. I would have really liked to run the main line when we went through S-turn, I think it was. And I would have loved to have tried to boof off of that one rock, but it's okay. I have fun anyways. I would love to go down there and meet up with him again and paddle. I would love to go down there and do the Pigeon River sometime as well. So anyway, it was very enjoyable. And one of the things, though, we really got to talk a lot about our personal life and everything, and I love it sometimes, the intimate nature of being able to paddle with just you and another guy, or gal for that matter. And, you're paddling, just the two of you, and you're watching out for each other. And I think outside of having a large group, when you link up with just another individual paddling, you get to have a lot of deeper personal discussions and get to know somebody. And so I enjoyed that and enjoyed getting to do that with Joey. I talked to him about, my desires of, one day aspiring to be able to get some sort of instructor level, license. And that I would love to just begin teaching basic paddling skills to people and introduce them to whitewater just on a very basic level, and let them know that you can get into it and you don't have to get into class 4, class 5 stuff, right? And so we shared a lot together, and we shared about, I shared personally about the balance in life that I seek between work, life, church, family, faith, paddling, all of that stuff together, and just trying to seek balance. And he spoke about that a little bit as well. And as much as we love paddling, we know that there's more to life than paddling. And he even shared, some things about relationships that he's had in life, and how, right now he's trying to find that balance, and I pray and wish him well in that matter. So anyway, Joey, if you're watching, man, just know that I'm praying for you, dude. But as we were going down the river, and as I'm reflecting on this paddle, there's something that really comes to mind, and the word was just balance. And I was just talking about that. Balance is something that's obviously really important to have on the river, knowing when to lean, when not to lean, understanding, how the water is going to react with your boat. You're going to give maybe a slight lean whenever you're going into, you're peeling out. You're going to lean a little bit downstream so that water's hitting, the underneath side of your boat and starts to turn you. Sometimes you're leaning a little bit maybe to get a turn as you're paddling down the river, or maybe you're leaning a little bit because of the certain way a wave's hitting you potentially, so that you're not getting yourself caught and flipped over. But balance in life is super important, just like it is on the river. And I just want to read to you the only the very first thing that really comes to my mind when I think about balance. And so it was in the wisdom literature of Ecclesiastes. It says, "For everything there is an appointed time, and an appointed time for every activity on earth. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to uproot what was planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones, and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search, and a time to give up on something that is lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to rip and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace." It's important that we understand balance, and sometimes knowing what time it is for certain things in life is a fine line that we have to walk. But just like it is on the river, sometimes it's a fine line, that balance where you need to be to make it, especially as you get into bigger water. or especially if you begin to paddle boats that have less stability. Like when I take my RPM max out, my balance, there's a very fine line. It's not as forgiving, and I have to be very mindful of that, as you've seen in some other videos of mine. But having that balance is what I seek in life. And as I'm beginning to get older as an adult, and I'm not like, the young guy as much anymore as I used to be. Now, sometimes in some of the paddling crowds, I still am younger than some out there. But let's just face it, I'm in my 40s. And so I've begun thinking about things a little bit differently in life. And balance is what I seek. Sometimes when I think about jobs, money isn't everything. Balance and seeking that balance is the right thing. And that's something that you're always going to have to weigh out in life. I think about that when I compare to ministry work and my secular work, having two jobs. How do I balance that? God, where do you want me to be in this? Was one going to fade off and the other one take over? I pray that I can do that and not have to have both of them. But I hope and I pray that you seek balance in life. Sometimes going for what looks fun and exciting in the moment all the time is just, it's great for a while, but then it too can leave you empty. And that's why seeking balance is important, because you need all these things to keep you rooted and stable. Because if you lean too much one way, you're eventually going to fall over. So learn to have balance. Balance in life, balance on the water. I love you guys, and God bless. Hope to see you on the river. And until next time, keep on paddling.